To truly understand the story of John Titor, you have to transport yourself back in time. Not to 2036, but to the year 2000. The internet was a different universe then, a digital frontier, text-based and sprawling, where communities formed in the flickering glow of cathode ray tubes. This was the era of dial-up, of forums dedicated to the strange and the unexplained. It was a landscape ripe for a story. And on November 2, 2000 on the Artbell Post-to-Post forums a new user appeared. Their handle was timetravel_0. Their initial posts were cautious, almost philosophical, testing the waters. They didn't arrive with a grand proclamation but with questions about time travel paradoxes. For weeks this mysterious user engaged with the community, displaying a calm, patient and unnervingly consistent knowledge of theoretical physics. Then the other shoe dropped. Timetravel_0 revealed his true name, or the name he wanted the world to know, John Titor. He claimed he was an American soldier, born in 1998, currently serving in the year 2036. He was, he stated as a matter of fact, a time traveler, and he was here on a mission. The story he wove was intricate, detailed, and for many, utterly captivating. He wasn't just a man with a fantastic claim, he came armed with a detailed technical backstory. His method of time travel, he explained, wasn't the stuff of Hollywood fantasy. It was based on hard physics, developed at CERN in the near future. The key, he said, was the creation of two micro-singularities, tiny, contained black holes. These singularities were housed in a unit he called the C-204 Temporal Displacement Unit, weighing about 500 pounds. By manipulating the mass and gravitational fields of these singularities, he could create a standard offset Tipler sinusoid, essentially a contained and steerable gravity well that would envelop his vehicle and transport it through spacetime. And what was this vehicle? Not a gleaming futuristic pod, but something far more mundane and therefore more believable. His time machine was installed in a 1967 Chevrolet Corvette. He even had a reason for this. He needed a car with a sturdy frame and enough room to handle the gravitational stresses and the bulky equipment. He posted pictures to back up his claims. They were blurry, indistinct, and easily debunked by skeptics. One infamous photo purported to show a laser beam bending as it entered the distortion field. Another showed the machine's console inside the car. He even shared pages from the supposed technical manual. To physicists it was a clever mix of established theory and pure science fiction. But to the layperson it sounded plausible, authoritative. He spoke the language of science with a confidence that was hard to dismiss. Every good story needs a compelling motive, and Titor's was a masterstroke of credibility. His mission, he claimed, was not to alter history or witness grand events. It was a technical support call from the future. He had been sent back to 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100, one of the earliest portable computers. The reason was astonishingly specific. In his time, 2036, they were facing a catastrophic computer bug, a sort of digital apocalypse. He called it the 2038 problem. This wasn't fiction. The year 2038 problem, or Y2K38, is a very real known issue in computer science related to how 32-bit systems store time. Titor claimed this bug would cause massive failures in legacy Unix systems that still formed the backbone of their infrastructure. The solution, he said, lay hidden within the antique IBM 5100. He explained that the 5100 had a unique undocumented feature that allowed it to debug and emulate code from IBM mainframes and translate between old programming languages like APL and BASIC. This was the anchor that grounded his entire story in reality. While the time machine was fantastical, the IBM 5100's special ability was an obscure, verifiable fact known only to a handful of veteran IBM engineers from that era. When they came forward to confirm this obscure detail was true, it sent shockwaves through the community. How could a random person on the internet know this? For many, this was the proof. The mission wasn't just a story, it was a technically sound objective that lent his entire presence an air of profound authenticity. With his credibility established, John Titor began to answer the one question on everyone's mind: what does the future hold? His answers were not comforting. He painted a grim, detailed picture of the years to come. The catalyst for collapse, he said, would be the United States itself. Starting around 2004, a growing divide between urban and rural populations, fueled by issues of order and rights, would escalate. He described an America sliding into a de facto police state, with increasing federal overreach and violent crackdowns on dissent. He predicted a series of Waco-type events that would ignite the population. By 2005, this would boil over into a second American Civil War. It wouldn't be a traditional war of battle lines and uniformed armies. It would be a messy, protracted conflict of guerrilla warfare and attrition. The cities, controlled by the federal government, against the countryside, controlled by civilian militias. He described people leaving the cities in droves to avoid the violence and starvation. The war would rage for years, culminating in 2008, with the federal government effectively collapsing. The nation would fracture into 5 separate sovereign regions with a new, weaker federal capital established in Omaha, Nebraska. It was a terrifyingly specific and plausible vision of societal breakdown. The American Civil War, according to Titor, was only the beginning. The collapse of the United States would create a massive power vacuum on the world stage, leading to global instability. This would culminate in 2015 with the outbreak of World War III. He was chillingly clear about how it would play out. The conflict would be triggered by border disputes and escalating tensions, but the defining event would be a nuclear exchange. Russia, feeling emboldened, would launch a massive first strike against the major cities of the new fractured American Federation, as well as China and Europe. The American forces would retaliate. The war would be short, brutal, and unimaginably destructive. He called it End Day. In the space of a few hours, 3 billion people would be killed. The world's great cities would be radioactive ruins. The environment would be poisoned. From these ashes, a new world would be born, the world of 2036 that John Titor called home. It was a world stripped of its technological hubris. Survivors lived in small, decentralized, tightly knit communities centered around universities. Life was agrarian, focused on farming and self-sufficiency. The family and local community were paramount. Centralized government was deeply distrusted. It was a hard life, but one he described as more meaningful, stripped of the consumerism and distraction of our modern world. John Titor posted his final message in March 2001 and vanished, leaving behind a legacy of fear and fascination. But as the years ticked by, a problem emerged. 2005 came and went with no civil war. 2008 saw a historic election, not a government collapse. And 2015 passed without the nuclear fire of World War III. By any objective measure, his major predictions were a complete failure. This should have been the end of the story, the point where John Titor was relegated to the dustbin of internet hoaxes. But it wasn't. Because John Titor had built the perfect escape hatch into his own narrative. From his very first posts, he had discussed the physics of his travel, referencing the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. He claimed that his very presence here had altered our timeline, creating a new world line that was now diverging from his own. He even gave it a number, estimating our reality was already 1 to 2% different from his original history. This was his masterstroke. With this single concept, he made his story unfalsifiable. Any failed prediction wasn't a failure at all. It was simply proof that we were on a different path. He hadn't been wrong. He had perhaps saved us. This divergence theory is the key to Titor's enduring power. It allows believers to hold on to the story, to see echoes of his predictions in modern political strife, and to believe that his warnings, while not literally true for us, still hold a deeper lesson. The story was no longer a prophecy, but a cautionary tale from a future that might have been. To back his claims, Titor posted proof, grainy photos of his time machine, a military insignia, and pages from its technical manual. The physics seemed complex, drawing on known concepts, but it wasn't revolutionary. Online sleuths traced the digital breadcrumbs to Florida and a single family, the Habers. At the center were Larry Haber, an entertainment lawyer, and his brother Maury, a computer expert. Soon after, the John Titor Foundation was established with Larry as CEO, publishing the posts in a book. This fueled theories. Was it an elaborate hoax or a viral marketing experiment? Even as a hoax, the story of John Titor lives on, not just as a footnote in internet history, but as a cultural phenomenon that has echoed far beyond the obscure forums where it was born. The question of Titor's authenticity almost becomes secondary to the undeniable impact of his narrative. His legacy is a complex tapestry woven from threads of science fiction, digital folklore, and a prescient warning about the nature of truth in the online age. Nowhere is this legacy more apparent than in the world of popular culture. While his story has been dissected in countless documentaries, podcasts, and YouTube deep dives, its most significant cultural footprint is arguably in the critically acclaimed anime and visual novel. The series isn't just inspired by Titor, it's a direct homage, integrating core elements of his lore into its very DNA. The protagonist encounters a character who uses the online handle John Titor and claims to be a time traveler from a dystopian future ruled by an organization called CERN, a thinly veiled reference to CERN, the very organization Titor warned about. The crucial plot device? An old IBM 5100 computer, needed to debug a legacy computer system and avert catastrophe, exactly as Titor claimed. Took the raw material of Titor's posts and transformed it into a poignant, complex story about fate, sacrifice, and the very world lines Titor described, introducing his legend to a new generation of fans worldwide. But Titor's influence extends beyond direct adaptations. He was a pioneer, a progenitor of a new kind of storytelling. Before we had terms like creepypasta or alternate reality game, John Titor was crafting a narrative in real time, with a live audience. He wasn't just broadcasting a story, he was interacting with it. He answered questions, he debated skeptics, he offered personal reflections. This interactivity made the story feel alive, immediate, and deeply personal to those following along. He effectively created one of the first pieces of internet folklore, a modern ghost story told not around a campfire but on a glowing screen. The archives of his posts, meticulously saved and shared across countless websites, became a kind of digital Dead Sea Scroll, a foundational text for a new mythology. Of course, for any myth, there is the search for a mortal author. And in the case of John Titor, the evidence overwhelmingly points towards a meticulously crafted hoax. Years of investigation, most notably by private investigator Mike Lynch, have uncovered a compelling trail leading to two brothers from Florida, Larry and John Haber. Larry Haber, an entertainment lawyer, established the John Titor Foundation Inc. in 2003, a company that held the rights to the story and sold merchandise, including a book titled. His brother, John Rick Haber, is a computer scientist, possessing the technical knowledge required to craft Titor's detailed explanations of his time machine and the physics behind it. The writing style, the specific technical knowledge, the legal and commercial framework built around the story, it all points away from a temporal refugee and towards a pair of clever storytellers. While they have never explicitly admitted to being the creators, the circumstantial evidence is so strong that it's widely accepted as the most plausible explanation. Yet, this revelation doesn't entirely diminish the legend. In a way, it adds another layer. The mystery of the time traveler is replaced by the mystery of the authors, their motivations, and the sheer brilliance of their execution. Perhaps Titor's most enduring and important legacy, however, is how his story serves as a parable for our current digital age. In the year 2000, the idea of a person fabricating an entire identity online, complete with a backstory and physical evidence, was a novel concept. It was a test of our collective gullibility, but also a training ground for our critical thinking. Titor's tale taught an early generation of internet users to question, to analyze, to cross-reference, and to demand proof. It was a lesson in digital literacy wrapped in the thrilling guise of science fiction. Today, we live in a world Titor could have only dreamed of, a world of sophisticated AI, photorealistic deepfakes, and algorithm-driven misinformation campaigns. A text-based hoax that required a few doctored photos seems almost quaint by comparison, yet the core challenge remains the same. Titor's tale reminds us that narratives, especially compelling ones, can be powerful tools of persuasion and deception. It forces us to ask, if so many were willing to believe a story based on forum posts and blurry pictures, how prepared are we to navigate a world where fake video, audio, and text are indistinguishable from reality? The story is no longer just about time travel. It's about the malleability of truth itself. It underscores the vital importance of skepticism, not as a form of cynicism, but as a necessary tool for survival in a complex information ecosystem. So why, after all the debunking and the passage of 2 decades, does the story of John Titor still hold such power? Because it taps into something deeply human, our eternal fascination with the future, and our profound desire for second chances. Titor didn't just predict doom, he offered a glimmer of hope. He spoke of a future where communities were stronger, where people were less materialistic, where life, though harder, was simpler. He presented a narrative where humanity had survived its self-inflicted wounds. We are drawn to his story not just for the sci-fi gadgetry, but for the fantasy that someone from the future might come back to warn us, to give us the cheat codes to avoid our own worst impulses. It's a story about redemption. Furthermore, the power of the narrative itself cannot be overstated. It was a masterclass in storytelling, slowly unspooling details, building a consistent world and creating a relatable, if enigmatic, protagonist. We wanted to believe in John Titor because he told a damn good story. So was John Titor real? The evidence, the logic, and the passage of time all scream no. It was almost certainly a brilliant, pioneering work of collaborative fiction. But asking if he was real might be missing the point. The more important question is, why does his story endure? It endures as a cultural artifact, as a landmark in internet history, and as a timeless lesson about the power of storytelling. John Titor's true legacy isn't in the future he described, but in the future of communication he predicted. Now we want to hear from you. What part of the John Titor saga do you find the most fascinating? Do you remember first encountering this story online, and do you think a hoax of this nature could capture the world's imagination in the same way today? Let us know your theories and memories in the comments below. And if you enjoy diving deep into mysteries like this, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the strange and unexplained. Thanks for joining us on this journey back to the dawn of the 21st century. The story of John Titor is a reminder that sometimes the most compelling truths are found within fiction. It leaves us with one final lingering thought. The future isn't written in stone, or is it?